You're with Business Today. I'm Sally Bundock. Now let's talk plastic. As you've been hearing, in South Korea, negotiations aimed at finalising a global treaty to curb plastic pollution are underway in the port city of Busan. Activists are calling for an ambitious agreement to restrict production and waste. The world is producing far more plastic than it has the ability to process. The United Nations estimates that about 20 million tonnes of it ends up in our oceans annually. For 2 years now, nations have been trying to craft a legally binding global treaty that will tackle plastic pollution. A fast-track negotiation process is now taking place and expectations are high. Well, let's go live to Busan then with Christina Dixon, who is Deputy Ocean Campaign Lead at the Environmental Investigation Agency, and you are there for these talks. How hopeful are you?
I think I remain pretty optimistic about the outcome of the talks this week. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to secure a legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution. And there's been already a decade of work leading us up to this critical moment in the negotiations to secure an effective treaty. So while there's still a lot to resolve, I believe that, with ambition at the right level, we can actually get this done this week.
And is everyone else on the same page as you? Because, as you say, people have been talking a long time about this, and some would say so far talks have failed. So why will you see a breakthrough this time?
I would say I totally disagree with the idea that talks have failed. I think that framing doesn't make any sense to me, because in a negotiation for a new instrument, nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. So when we finished the last round of talks, we exited that negotiation with a text that included all of the elements that organizations like EIA would like to see in the text, as well as many that we don't. But the point is that, until the dotted line is signed, everything is still up for grabs. So I think going into this week, we need to kind of really keep that in mind, that we can still do this. Things like plastic production, a strong financial mechanism, these things are still on the negotiating table. And I don't think we should just bargain them away before the starting gun is even fired.
Let's assume, as you say, we are successful this time and there's a legally binding global treaty agreed upon. What is likely to be in that treaty?
So I think an effective and meaningful treaty is really going to have to deal with reducing the size of the problem that we're facing. And that problem is, to put it simply, we are simply producing way too much plastic. We're using too much plastic. And that activity is driving the climate crisis, and it's a human health crisis. So we need to meaningfully address that. We need to reduce the size of the problem that we're facing. But in parallel to that, we need to design a kind of means of implementation, so a financial mechanism that can really meet the scale of that challenge. So that means ensuring that developing countries, economies in transition can access the necessary financing to help them deliver on basically delivering on the obligations of the treaty. So that's basically transitioning to things like reuse and refill systems, finding alternatives that are safe and sustainable, and so on.
And when it comes to companies and their commitments, I presume they will also have to adhere to what is agreed in this treaty eventually?
Absolutely. And one of the weird things for me is that you don't often find NGOs and the business community agreeing with each other. But actually, if you look at the Business Coalition for an Effective Plastics Treaty, which includes, major multinational companies like Unilever, Coca-Cola, they're actually also calling for global legally binding rules. So I think that's really important to recognize that the fragmentation that we currently have in the plastic supply chain is a major problem, not just for impacted communities, but also for companies who are trying to meet those regulations.
All right. Well, we shall keep an eye on how things go. Christina, thank you for talking to us today. Christina Dixon there.
Thank you.